Good evening, Bulls fans. I'm John McQuinney, and this is Matt Gritzmacher. We're from ubbullrun.com, and we're back again doing our weekly Olympic Rundown podcasts.
2017.
Woo. For those new to the show, what we talk about in these podcasts are all of UB's Olympic sports, i.e. anything that's not football or basketball.
You might know them as non-revenue, but I hate that term. So we call them Olympic sports.
How fitting that the Olympics they're done now, right? Is that the closing ceremony done?
Well, it happened today. I don't know if it's done or not.
Oh.
I lost interest after Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt happened, and then I just felt like nothing could be better, so I stopped.
Fair enough. Well, excited to be back for this we've been doing this for nearly 2.5 years already, believe it or not.
Yeah, I've been doing it since October of 2014, and you were on by December of that year.
Yeah, so we'll be hitting 3 years by the end of the calendar year.
Yep.
Oof, time flies.
Yeah, wow. And all the student athletes changed too, which makes me feel old, even though I'm only 25, and I'm told that I'm not allowed to feel old at 25.
Making you feel old. From where I'm sitting, my degree is hanging up right in front of me. I really feel old now.
I still haven't put my degree in a frame. I'm not even sure where it is, to be honest. It's not like I'm using it for the job I'm in anyway. Let's talk sports.
Let's talk sports. Matt, you had a little road trip this weekend. You went up to State College to see women's soccer.
I had a big road trip this weekend that would have been better if I had remembered my computer charger cord and if I could read minor league baseball schedules correctly. I spent all day Saturday just in a bar watching sports, which was great. But women's soccer was why I went. For those who are relatively new to the show or to Bull Run or to my life, I lived in Buffalo for 6 months in between jobs, in between sections of my life in 2014. Jumped into covering women's soccer. That was really the months when we expanded Bull Run to cover all the teams, everything that UB had. And women's soccer went undefeated in the MAC, won the championship, had just this incredible season in Coach Burke's first year. And women's soccer is my favorite team on campus now. I don't say that very much because we do like to cover all the teams. But last year I made it to their opening weekend in Philadelphia. This weekend was a little tougher, but they were playing it in Penn State. As part of the Penn State Invitational, they played Friday against Hofstra. And they played today against number 6 West Virginia, a team that made the Elite Eight last year and matches up favorably with any team in the country, including Penn State, reigning national championship champions. Those two teams played Friday evening after our game against Hofstra to a 1-1 draw. It was really probably the best collegiate soccer game I've ever seen, with the exception of maybe the last 2 national championship games, the Florida State UVA game and then last year's Penn State game. But I was in town for women's soccer. We talked about them a lot this summer. We talked about them after the Cleveland State scrimmage a bit. And John, good things. I mean, they lost against Hofstra 1-0 on an early goal. I sent out a tweet this year. If you remember last year, most people didn't even turn the stream on before we were down 1-0 to St. Joe's. Some of the parents weren't even in from the parking lot yet. We were down to St. Joe's 1-0 in 17 seconds last year. Sent a tweet out this year that at least we lasted 17 seconds, and literally 10 seconds later, Hofstra scored. It was so quick. It was so quick that I missed the goal because I was too busy tweeting about how we hadn't given up a goal yet. So I don't even really know what happened. But we lost 1-0 to Hofstra. And we lost 2-0 to West Virginia today, which on its face value, just by scoreline, you look at that and you say, oh, we lost 1-0 to West Virginia last year, 2-0 this year. But I got to say, this team really impressed me based on what we did lose to graduation this year, what we thought, some of the obstacles we thought we were dealing with this summer starting the year. And, just having that direct comparison of Sunday's game to Friday's game and Sunday's West Virginia game to last year's West Virginia's game, I got to say this I think we have to reevaluate our expectations, John. I will let you talk for a bit and see where you want to start. But you know, the base values, I think this team is very, very good. I wouldn't call them favorites in the MAC, but I think people are in for a surprise if they've been listening to us all summer and didn't watch these games and are just not going to wait until the Bonaventure game on Thursday is the first they're going to look at them. I think they're going to impress a lot of people on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So you tell me where you want me to start, or you say what you want to say.
I wasn't able to catch most of the West Virginia games today, but from what you've told me outside of the show and what you've been tweeting and so on and so forth, what's kind of the biggest surprise to me is just how good the defense is, especially with what they lost, losing Kristen Markowitz, especially losing Jackie Hall. We talked at great length in our preview shows on just who's going to step into these roles, how are they going to do, you know, and I think either you or I, one of us, had talked about how this season we'd have to lean a lot more on Laura Dougal. But from what you've told me, it doesn't really seem like that's going to be the case with just how good the defense has gelled and how well they played the first two games.
Yeah, I think Dougal's numbers are still going to be up. We still gave up a lot of shots in these two games, but I got to say, not the same level of high-quality chances for our opponents as I might have expected. We've talked at length. We're talking about the defense about true freshman Georgina Jandu, who was committed to UB before her junior season, her, I guess, grade 11 season, we'd call it in Canada. And she's been a center back for her whole career. She played on a club team with a ton of other folks who made it to Division I schools. She's instant strength at center back. And Angel Hart, who brings all that experience from playing on the wing next to Jackie Hall, next to Sophie Therian, also into the middle. That's real strength. If you remember last year, I had this freshman, Brianna Shingery, who was this powerful midfield winger with an eye for going forward in high school, turned her into a fullback on the edge of the defense, and she was amazing. She's no longer with the team, but Burke has pretty much replicated that with freshman AJ Van Kuyk, who I still haven't learned how to pronounce her name, and I'm trying to go through the media guide right now, because if I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly, I'm just going to feel awful. But we're just going to call her AJ. AJ is a very similar mold to Shingery, a little bit bigger, but big leg, tons of points in high school, tons of scoring capability. If you remember, John, she's the one who was named All-Greater Rochester Player of the Year. And that's when I go on my rants about how Rochester area is a really strong girls soccer hotbed. New York State in general is a really strong girls soccer hotbed. I don't have any pronunciation guides in the media guide. Okay, too bad. But AJ has been placed on the fullback wing there, the fullback spot, and she's great. She makes things happen. She's got vision. She's a solid defender. She's got a good motor. And then he's moved Nicole Garrett, who also has a great motor, played on the midfield forward direction last year onto the other side, and I really like that move too. She's not quite as finesse as some of those other players, but she keeps working. And if you're out on the wing, you can just delay people long enough for players like Andrea Kniper and Moira Petrie to get back and clog up the middle a little more. That's useful as well. And of course, Kniper in that holding midfield role is just doing what we expect her to do. She's not just a presence, physically on the field, but she's absolutely UB's vocal leader right now. On a team that needs to communicate more and I think needs to be more vocal. I think that was really apparent watching both West Virginia and Penn State play against each other, and also just comparing Hofstra to UB in their game and UB to West Virginia in their game. This team could do really well to communicate more, and Kniper's someone who does a lot of that. But the defense just looks good. And good in a way that I have faith that it will remain consistent. Sometimes you think things are just going well, especially more on the offensive side. Someone just seems to pot everything they get, and how small of a difference can be between a goal and hitting the crossbar, or in any sport, between lucky shots or making the most of every chance versus being a bit snake bitten. the defense just looks consistent. They've stayed calm. They've kept their shape and their positioning well. There were a couple times today where when UB was trying to push the point and make an effort and capitalize on the fact that they had the ball in West Virginia's end, where they got a shot off or not, West Virginia would come back on the counter. And UB didn't really get burned on any counters. The second goal was a really pretty goal from West Virginia that happened a little bit from the run of play rather than them setting up and working it. But there were a number of really lopsided things where West Virginia was running at full speed and someone on UB's defense stepped up and someone stayed back and they just had it covered. And I think it's a defense that can be one of the best in the MAC. I think the standard for the defense right now in the MAC is Ball State. And I think UB can be maybe not at Ball State's level, but I think up with anyone else because they just seem to have it. It's there. They've got, I said all those names. I didn't even mention Megan Simmons, who played a bunch at center back last year, has stepped in and has switched in the first two games between the fullback and the center back on the edge and in the middle. She looks really good. She looks in really good shape, making smart decisions. She's another one who's played center back her whole life. She actually subbed in the first half and then started the second half after not starting the game today. I just think we talked a lot about that defense. We've talked a lot the last 2 years about who they're losing and who they're bringing back and how much turmoil there'll be. And I think this year's defense is really a reason to get excited. The shots are still going to come at Dougal or go wide or, happen until the midfield gets the ball more and keeps the ball moving up to the forwards more. But for all the shots that UB gave up this weekend, I really thought it was an abnormally small number of them that were really quality chances or shots on goal.
Well, that's great to hear. I know when we had talked in the off season, we really spoke at length about how really the defense was going to perform and just how quickly the newcomers were going to be able to get up to speed and contribute to the team. And it really seems from what you've talked about that especially on the defensive line, the newcomers have adjusted well and they're already being able to contribute right away.
Yeah.
Yes,
I would say that.
Yeah.
I think moving up the formation a bit, I'm also really impressed by two newcomers in Carly Zakali. It was a little bit of a surprise in getting the start against Cleveland State, but scoring a goal there. And Kara Daly, who we talked about a bit as a really exciting offensive threat based on her high school career. Both of them have played time at that kind of right wing position opposite the formation from Julia Bonatti. That seems to be an uncertain point right now. Both games, I think 4 or 5 different players swung through there depending on the time. Zokali plays with a real high motor, which is really exciting, and she makes things happen. She's not afraid to go into space, and she's not afraid to pressure the opposing team when she's got the ball. And Daly got some time at forward, and I really liked, she was willing to pressure up and willing to run. And I think some of UB's best-looking chances against West Virginia today came on balls aimed for Daly. Not their singularly best chance, that was for Carissa McCatrona, but off a pass from Daly. Those are two newcomers who I think really have a role here, whether as subs or starters. Mm-hmm. Another person who's a quasi-newcomer is Rebecca Bramble. She was pretty impactful as a short-term second-half sub last year with her energy and physicality. She's also someone who looks stronger at forward than in that wing spot, but she's gotten the start 2 games in a row on that wing spot. She looks a little more comfortable up top with more room to run forward. We'll see what comes of that. UB had some good looks today that were just undone by West Virginia being bigger and faster. Mm-hmm. Certainly much better offensive looks than they got against Hofstra. So, and I think a big part of that too, I shouldn't just ramble, is I thought Moira Petrie played a great game today. If she plays like she did today, where the offense that I'm a little bit concerned about, and that I was a little bit concerned about last year until Cassidy Kidd made the switch, is going to be in good shape. She was smart with the ball. She was aggressive, both in getting the ball when it was loose, and in moving the ball when it was in UB's possession. Part of the reason that the offense worked so well with Cassidy Kidd last year, moving out to forward, is Cassidy was still willing to drop lower into the midfield to get the ball and create and move around. Whereas 2 years ago, we didn't really have anyone who did that, sort of, I guess, kind of Selena Carrero, but it was kind of get the ball up to Carrero and Roberts. And it worked there because Meg Geeson was so good in that attacking midfield spot that Moira Petrie is now playing. This year, at least right now, we don't have someone doing that same thing through these first 2 games that Cassidy Kidd did, dropping low enough to create in the midfield and then get up and create in the forwards. And the way Moira Petrie played today, she can provide that from the midfield, like we got from Megan Geeson 2 years ago. And so that's just someone else I want to highlight. Played great today. I really think, John, if UB had played the way they played today against Hofstra, they would have won. And we'd be celebrating a win against the 2015 NCAA tournament team. Mm-hmm. And that's not how it shook out. And soccer is a game where 1 or 2 mistakes can cost you the whole game. But I mean, UB's going to face 3 NCAA tournament teams this year, and 2 of them are in the rearview window. And I'm feeling really positive about this team right now. It's certainly a much better opening weekend than we saw last year in Philadelphia by a long shot.
Yeah, they lasted longer than 17 seconds without giving up a goal, which is definitely a positive until you.
They lasted longer than 17 seconds.
Until you jinxed it.
I know, and I really try not to believe in jinxes, but like I think I did that. It was honestly not more than 30 seconds. It was to the point where I missed the goal because I was like hitting the tweet button and like checking that it's sent or something. What can you do? What can you do?
Well, the team has yet to score a goal. Who do you think is going to score the first goal against St. Bonaventure?
Catrona. It'll be Catrona. She was dangerous today in a way that I hadn't seen last year. And I think part of that's because I watched fewer games than I wanted to last year. But, she came in, she scored all those goals, 151 goals in high school, played with the Empire Revs for the summer before coming to UB, and impressed a lot of people. Ball, really good work with the ball on her feet today. And it seems that she's got a good connection with Moira Petrie, which is really important, as I just said. And I think it'll be her. I hope and think and really know that we're going to beat the tar out of St. Bonaventure. I know that everyone's pissed about losing to them 2-0 last year. It was an upset at the time. It sucked at the time. It still sucks. That's on Thursday. Bonaventure tied Binghamton 1-1. Like, we beat the tar out of Binghamton last year. I think it's Catrona first. And then, are we moving? I don't know if we've ever done predictions before. I'm going to do a prediction. I think Catrona scores first. I think Benatti gets a goal. I think someone gets a goal off a corner kick. It's hard to predict. And I think that's 3. I think we win 3-0. But let's say we win 4-1 instead of 3-0. It'll be Carradine with the 4th goal thing.
All right, well, that's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out.
It's a bold move, but I think if we face a defense that's a little less cohesive like Hofstra's was, or a little less fast and physical like West Virginia's was, we're going to have little trouble. We're going to possess the ball more in the midfield. We're going to be able to do more kind of break possessions where you break the defense down versus possessions where you're looking for just one stroke of lightning to get the ball into space into someone. And I don't think Bonaventure can run with us. I don't think they could run with us last year. They was at Bonaventure, so all we had was live stats, but I really felt like we controlled that game last year, and we just got beat by 2 good goals from their best player on taking advantage of the chances they got. And I honestly don't know if she's graduated or not. I haven't done the preview work for it. But like I said, 3 NCAA tournament teams on the schedule, and 2 of them are in the rear view. I think the toughest test before MAC play now is Syracuse, and I think every other game is a should win. And I would think that way even if I wasn't so positive, just based on who the opponents are. But really, I'm trying not to go over the top, and I'm failing miserably. But it was a good weekend. It was just I've said it all already, but I was really impressed in a good way, considering the questions we had. And I think the questions we had were valid ones, and I think they're still out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think what the defense showed this week was consistency that can be matched over and over again. It's not like we got 3 free kick goals from Julia Bonatti, and it's like, well, free kicks are amazing if you've got, the right touch on the ball, but like you can hit a ball perfectly and not score a free kick. It's not like we got 3 free kick goals and an own goal and like, capitalize on Khadijah Buchanan's sub because she was still in Rio de Janeiro. Like, it was the defense and the midfield was moving the ball, and did it for not the whole game. West Virginia still dominated the game, but the midfield was able to move the ball and put it where they wanted to and work for it and string together a couple of passes. And it's just good.
Well, good. I think I'm very much looking forward to watching the women's soccer home opener to see Bonaventure get the tar beaten out of them, and then any Bonaventure fans that do show up, they'll be sad, and we'll have to leave sad, and that'll make me happy.
Do Bonaventure fans feel sadness?
I hope they do, because I really want a little Schadenfreude.
I should not be as mean to Bonaventure fans as I am, but they're mean to me, so I really don't like them. It honestly doesn't matter the sport. They're all people who make my skin crawl.
Well, I think
so I hope their team loses in everything.
Well, I think we can move on. Flip it around to the men's side.
We beat Bonaventure 6-0 last year. Just saying.
There you go. Perfect segue.
Men's side. John's the expert on the men's side right now.
Oh, I wouldn't call myself an expert in anything, but the men have played 2 exhibitions so far. First one being a 2-2 tie, or draw tie, whatever you want to call it, against Albany, which in reality it shouldn't have been. They were leading 2-0 at the half. Russell Cicerone did what he does. He scored. And another name that scored in that game, which we didn't really touch on too much in our previews, was Braden Scales. And watching these 2 exhibitions, in our preview we talked about the offense going through Cicerone, Cramarosa, and Scott Doney. One name we really didn't mention was Braden Scales. I'd want to say every 3 out of 4 scoring opportunities that UB had, or good looks at a shot on goal, Scales was there and was involved in some way, which was very encouraging based on how he played last year. I believe he started 16 games last year. He scored 3 goals, had 5 assists. And the goal he had against Albany was a really, really pretty goal. It was off a set piece. And really a good set piece, no matter who the opponent is, if you have a good set piece, you're in pretty good shape.
Yep.
And Scales was one of the names that really jumped out at me as I was watching the games, because we didn't really touch on him that much. I don't know why we overlooked him, or we focused mostly on the trio of Doney, Cicerone, and Cramarosa. But I think Scales is going to be just as big of a part in the offense as the other 3 that I just mentioned.
Yeah, John, you brought him up while we were talking before going live on the show, and my reaction was, oh yeah, duh. Scales has been someone who's always been involved in much the same way that I would say fan favorite. But when I say fan favorite, I mean me being the fan. Fan favorite Dylan Cope. Scales is involved, and he works hard in the midfield. And he works hard in the midfield in a way that gives Russell Cicerone the freedom to be as wide-ranging as Cicerone is. He works hard and gets the ball and moves the ball, but he also stays home a bit and doesn't overextend the offense, doesn't leave anyone out hung to dry. And I think both Braden Scales and Braden Culver can be really valuable parts of the midfield. And Scales is a local fellow, went to St. Joe's, is from wherever the places that people go to St. Joe's. I did not go to St. Joe's. And he's a guy that just makes things, he doesn't make things happen in the same way that Daniel Cramerasa makes things happen. But, like you said, he was involved in probably 75% of UB scoring chances. And he's good with the ball, and he's smart, and he's calm, which is a really important thing. And, it just basically, he's someone who you brought up before we went live on the show. And I said, oh, yeah, duh, like Scales is definitely an asset to the team.
Mm-hmm. And kind of flipping back to the defensive end of things, we talked about the women's soccer team, how their backline, there was a lot of uncertainty coming into the season. Men's soccer, there really wasn't that much uncertainty. You have Nick Forrester, Fox Slotmaker, Austin Place, and who's the fourth guy? Crap, I'm drawing a blank.
On defense?
Did I say Austin Place? You
said Place. Alec Fisher.
Fisher. Yeah. Right.
He's one of Stu's Kalamazoo guys.
When all four of those guys were playing in either exhibition, Joe Kuda really didn't have to work at all. The first half against Albany, I think they had maybe one or two shots, and neither was on goal the entire first half. And this was an Albany team that was picked first in the America East. Do with that what you will. But in their own conference, Albany is not really much of a joke. And they...
I like the context setting. In their own conference. They're not much of a joke.
Well,
I wonder if the soccer team has to ask the lacrosse team for permission to use the field. I just wonder these things. Welcome to 2016-2017. You'll learn this year that I hate every school other than UB. I hate them all.
As it should be.
I hate the MAC. I hate everyone else in New York State. I hate Power 5 schools. Who else? There's no other school that I feel good. There are programs and coaches and players that I like, but I hate them all. Anyway, fewer uncertainties.
Fewer uncertainties on the back line, and they absolutely shut down Albany in the first half. Kuda basically stood in goal, didn't really have to do much. And kind of in the second half, Riddle kind of made more wholesale sub outs. Swapped out Kuda for Cam Hogg. 2 goals were given up. One of them was Hogg kind of misplayed the ball on a goal kick.
Kind of. I'm sorry. It happens. It happens frequently enough that you see it on Twitter and things, but
yeah, it happened. The ball was stolen away.
Sometimes opposing guys close enough to you, they just takes it off your foot and scores with it because there's no defenders around anymore.
Yeah, it was basically the Albany guy had about 15 yards all to himself and a wide open goal. If he had missed or sent it above the crossbar, that probably would have been a not top 10 play.
Yeah,
that's how wide open the goal was. The second goal, some of the younger defenders and some of the guys that were in there kind of it looked like they overplayed it a little bit, and one of the Albany guys just kind of slipped by them and scored. So in reality, UB should have won at minimum 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
Mercyhurst was a different story, offensively and defensively. Well, not really defensively. Defensively, they still played very well. Offensively, Russell Cicerone absolutely went off.
I was able to watch the second half of Mercyhurst, and it was just good. You know, it was the sort of stuff where everything was landing at a Bulls, like at a UB player's feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something that I've seen a bit when I watched higher level NCAA competition. When you watch Akron on the men's side, or when UB goes and plays Penn State or Virginia Tech or West Virginia on the women's side, the passes and touches that for UB would just be kind of flailing and kicking it further upfield or getting out of the way, find their way to feet. And that's what UB's men looked like in the second half against Mercyhurst.
Yeah, and speaking of passes getting to feet, there's one name that I kind of hyped up in our preview shows that really impressed me, kind of validated what I had been saying, was Ricard Lindquist. And when we talked in our preview shows, I kind of mentioned him as a possible replacement in the Marcus Hansen type role. Seeing him on the field, Lindquist is not as physical as Hansen, but I don't think anyone could really match Hansen's physicality. For those of you who may not have paid too much attention to men's soccer, Hansen more or less could have probably played safety or linebacker for the UB football team if he wanted to. Lindquist has his on-the-ball skills were very impressive.
Say the sentence you told me before the show, because I think you need to say that now about how he compares
yes.
in playmaking ability.
In terms of ball handling skills and kind of the hierarchy of UB's players, Cicerone is first, followed closely by Daniel Cremorosa. I really think that Lindquist is third in that pecking order in terms of just how good they are with the ball at their feet. He's shown so far a really, really good passing ability, great field vision, knowing where he needs to put the ball and where it has to go. He came to UB from one of the top club teams in Sweden. And you can kind of tell that he's used to playing at a faster pace and playing with this caliber of talent. He had an assist. I know he had one assist. I think he may have had a goal in the Mercy. He may have had the second. Oh no, it was Enstrom that had the goal. He assisted on Cicerone's hat trick goal, which was a really sweet pass. Which I wish we had video of it because then we could do a little video presentation, but
I know
UB didn't save the video.
Oh, I'm sure it's saved. It's just a matter of flipping the right switch. We'll try and get it. I'm gonna be a nag about it for regular season.
But yeah, the pass. It was a perfect cross. I think it may have just been redirected by Nick Forrester or someone else, but it landed right at Cicerone's feet, and all he had to do was wind up and blast it into the goal. It was, I hate using the word, but it was near perfection.
Hey, anything that gets to the net is perfect for me. So I don't hate using the word.
And he says his favorite athlete is Zinedine Zidane.
Oh, headbutter.
Yeah.
That can prove useful.
Yeah. I thought I would just bring that up, but
I think it's useful.
He is going to be a very exciting player to watch.
Good.
Especially with all the senior star power that we've kind of talked about to literally no end.
Yeah.
He's another name that, while Cicerone and probably Scott Doney and Daniel Cremorosa will get most of the goals, a name like Ricard Lindquist, he'll be really key in setting up those goals, especially with Cicerone's third, where he had that cross. It was beautiful, and he had a few others like that too. And the shots were just misfired once they got across to whoever he was passing to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you need to explain for other people. I guess probably you should. This is why we do these shows. But once you say that he's in that realm with Cramarasa, that's enough for me. I think if you've really listened and read everything that we've put out this summer, you know how high I am on Cramarasa. And if you haven't, you'll learn quickly. I am pretty much openly begging Stu Riddle to let Daniel Cramarasa play further forward and be more of a part of the offense. And if Lindquist is in that caliber, that's just a great, great thing. John, I do want to ask you about a name that I'm particularly interested in. And hopefully you can do this in like 60 seconds, and let's just see what we can do. Tommy Fogarty Cameron. I'm really interested in him. I haven't gotten a chance to really see UB enough to know in that second half of an exhibition that I was able to watch. I don't really know what I was looking at for some of them, so I wasn't sure who he was. But did he stand out to you at all?
He no pun intended, but he stood out more for his size in the midfield. I think he stands about 6'2", 6'3", and with both he and Scott Doney on the field, UB is fielding a fairly large lineup, both in the mids and forwards. I think Forty Cameron is probably going to be someone who can complement Scott Doney or be that height presence if Doney is not on the field. And he is for his size, he is surprisingly quick. He's only listed at 140 pounds, so it doesn't really come as much of a surprise to me that he is as fast as he is. But again, he was another one, kind of like Braden Scales, where he was in the vicinity of the ball and trying to making things happen. But I think more importantly than that, his defensive skills are a great asset to the midfield, especially when you have Lindquist and Cramarasa in the midfield as more attacking, more offensively minded. I think Forty Cameron can be a good mix of both offense and defense. Not to say that the other two aren't defensively minded as well, but I think he brings a great combination of the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, in terms of a different level of hybridity. That's what I'm going to go with. Like Enstrom and Forrester were used in those regards last year too. It's kind of defensive holding mids who could hit pretty good through balls to guys moving up the wings with pretty good accuracy. And so to have those varying degrees of ability to sit between offense and defense, I think is a real asset for the midfield. And it's something that we saw a little bit of last year. And if UB can really get it good this year, it's just another feather in their cap, another tool they can work with.
Yeah, and he assisted on one of Cicerone's 3 goals. Excuse me.
Cool.
Against Mercyhurst. So he's a transfer in from Lubbock Christian, which I believe is a D2 school.
Yeah, I think so too.
And he had 7 goals and 4 assists there last year. So he's proven that he can score, and he does have offensive ability. So the offense, for as much as we talk about Russell Cicerone being, like one of the best players in the nation and being this offensive superstar, there's a lot around him that can complement and open things up. So while opposing defenses are keying in on Cicerone, that leaves room for Doney, Cramarasa, Braden Scales, Ricard Lindquist, Tommy Fogarty Cameron, and I could probably list off another 3 or 4 guys.
Yep.
That their opportunities will open.
We haven't said Steven Stryker yet.
No, we haven't.
And we kind of need to move on to volleyball. But we haven't even said Steven Stryker yet. And he brings good energy. He brings good size. He brings a pretty good nose for the ball.
I think the Energizer Bunny is what I had overheard some people calling him when he came into the game against Mercyhurst. He wasn't in for very long. Obviously, there's no stats, so I can't really confirm or deny exactly how long he was in the game. But he kind of gave that Can't talk. The Rebecca Bramble-ish type of jolt of energy to the team. Like you said, has a real great nose for the ball, and he's really, I think the Energizer Bunny is a real apt description for the way he was on the field.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, we'll their last exhibition is tomorrow night, I think.
I think they have another one after that. There's one tomorrow.
Do they now?
I think there's 4, if I'm not mistaken. There's one tomorrow night. U of R is coming to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And
then Friday is the regular season.
There is only 3.
Yeah.
Huh. For some reason, I had the number 4 in my mind. Okay.
I would really like to be able to watch that game against Rochester, but I might have plans. Maybe I'll cross my fingers and hope they fall through. Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we can move on to
volleyball.
The last sport that's kind of started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to rehash everything that Paige said, John. I think, Paige is kind of the site's resident volleyball person. He's not a writer for the site, but he frequently writes fan posts and chimes in when we talk and lets us know what further context we need to know or further insights. And Paige attended volleyball's blue and white scrimmage, which honestly I don't even know when it was. It was recently. And wrote up a nice piece on kind of what he saw. And some of it is about in line with what we hoped for and expected. Middle blocking is indeed going to be a strength of the team. Some of it, I think the outside hitters is a bit different from what we guessed at, but we acknowledged the whole time that we were going on very little there. But Paige started, John, and I think we should start too with the setters. Given how much I just hyped women's soccer, maybe I shouldn't say this sentence, but I didn't think we could hype, Scout McLaren more than we did. Madison Clark played pretty well last year once Marissa Prinsbeck got hurt. Apparently, Scout McLaren is going to be an instant impact, can't ignore, can't keep off the court player, based on the scrimmage at least. And a lot of this is Paige talking X's and O's that I might not be able to see. But the sentence that really stood out was, it didn't take more than about a dozen plays to see McLaren display almost every skill you want to see from a setter and display those skills at a high level. I don't know what you might add to that. I've kind of talked myself into a corner.
I will say that in our previews when we talked about volleyball, having very little volleyball knowledge and what I could gather from video and stuff on McLaren, I said that she could be a potential program-changing player. And I guess a broken clock is right twice a day. And
we weren't right about Mallory Buha, so we could be right about it.
Well,
that was swimming a joke. We'll get to that in the winter.
Yeah, stick around. There's plenty of small inside jokes and things and our ramblings. Anywho, I don't want to. This is going to be a little humble brag that I'm glad that what I said wasn't completely false. It wasn't completely made up that McLaren is as good as she was labeled in high school. She's as good as advertised.
Yeah.
I would have attended the scrimmage yesterday, but I was at the Buffalo Bills game.
Sellout.
Yeah, the tickets were free, man. Come on.
I know.
And it was the back to volleyball.
Back to volleyball. We know that middle blocker is a strength. Paige uses the phrase mid-season form. Outside hitter, we know that we're very confused on. Paige had generally good things to say about Felicia Watkins, which is nice. I think you've been higher on Watkins than I've been over this offseason. Madison Clark is getting some looks at outside hitter. I think that's a great idea. I honestly don't know how hard of a transition that is. I don't know how much she played that at Will South in high school. I think it's a great idea. She's 6'2". If McLaren's going to prove herself indispensable, Clark is a sophomore, but one of the more experienced players that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So she's also worth keeping on the court. You may disagree with me.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
All right, fair enough. I honestly don't know that we learned that much about outside hitter, other than that Felicia Watkins is gonna, I've probably been a little bit too hard on her. Two names that we picked out a lot and we kind of gravitated to were Tina Benitez and Lauren Slavoski. And Paige says that Benitez, didn't get as many looks as other players did, and Slavoski didn't play. Slavoski might have a knee injury. One name that Paige did bring up that maybe we could talk about more is Rachel Sanks, who can't remember where she's from. She might be a local one. She might be Jamestown. Oh no, she's one of Virginia's. One of the folks from Virginia that Blair Brown went and got. Let me remind myself as this loads. Sanks, first team all conference and all region in Alexandria, Virginia. All right. Explosive athlete. Quick at the net, will be a steady presence for us on the court. That's what Blair Brown Lips had said at the beginning. And Paige said that has a good vertical leap, including several kills from the back row. So that sounds reasonably explosive to me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll know a lot more this coming weekend when they face Virginia and two other teams in Virginia, Northwestern and George Washington. You'll see what they get out of that. Certainly an easier schedule than last year.
Mm-hmm.
Still road warriors all the way through, not hosting their own tournament like they used to do.
Mm-hmm. And two names that when you had brought up Rachel Sanks at outside hitter, are two names that we kind of hyped a bit. I think that's probably the right word to use. During our previews were Tina Benitez and Lauren Slavoski was the other one that we had kind of hyped. Mm-hmm. And from Slavoski didn't play, and Benitez, at least from Paige's observation, she wasn't regularly involved in the offense. It was kind of Sanks as the freshman outside hitter that really kind of stole the show, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less surprised, I think, in part just because I knew that I was working with very little information all summer.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a little bit surprised me just because she's 5'9". And that doesn't usually work. But, we have Raven Jordan is also on the shorter side for an outside hitter, and now Sanks. But if they're good athletes who can get up above the net and hit the ball hard, it works. One place that I think we'll see how much more improved it actually is back row defense. Paige had good things to say about Hannah Watson, who it feels like Hannah Watson had been committed to UB forever. And now she's finally here. Maddie Torbeck was a little bit more of a surprise. And we'll see. One thing I think in general, not any one player, was that just the back row defense in general looked more confident, more comfortable with each other than last year, which is certainly good. I don't know what kind of video feeds we'll have until MAC play, depending on, which tournament they're at. But that's certainly something that I'll be looking more for. It's something that you can pick out even as a layman in the game, is how, confidently people are going to grab digs and things like that. So I think moderate surprises from UB, but I think the stuff that we really know didn't change. We know that the middle blockers are strong. We knew that Scout McLaren was good, which is really good. We knew that Madison Clark was experienced, and it's a little bit of a surprise to see her over there, but it makes sense if we want to keep her on the floor. And we know that kind of the freshman outside hitters might be hit and miss. And I think it's really good to have that input from someone who knows volleyball a little more than us. If I had attended, I wouldn't have been able to, but if I had attended the scrimmage, what would I have seen? I would have probably just counted things up and said, this person had a lot of this person had a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that would still be valuable, but certainly not as much as what we got from Paige, which is useful. And now we've only got 5 or 6 days until we can really see it in action.
Assuming there's video or live stats or something.
I feel like this week there will be, because it's Virginia, and UVA is kind of rich. I'm going to look it up right now, and then we can close the show out because I'm tired.
Me too, and I have to get up in 4 hours to go to work.
Some of us also work. It's not just you.
Yeah, I know.
Right. No. Volleyball. Let's just see what they're doing. I could also see Virginia being rich because they charge $4 a game to watch their streams.
Ugh.
Which, fall sports broadcast schedule. Oh, ACC Network Extras. That's something that we have to pay for. Network is available to users who have access to ESPN3. Okay, so it might be available on ESPN3. Let's find out. Page loads. Nope. These are all ACC games. That makes sense. All right, schedule. We should, not tonight, but we should publish a cross-country season preview sometime this week. This is maybe a better off-topic conversation, but we've said everything we have to say. If you're watching,
keep an eye out for it.
There will be live stats, but it looks like no video.
Boo.
And that's for UB versus UVA, so I can't imagine they'll have video for the non-UVA games. Oh, they might not even have live stats for the non-UVA games. You are an ACC school. You can do better than that. Oh, no. Okay, well, I need to not work my blood pressure up before I go to bed. Yeah, that's everything I have to say, John. I'm obviously at the end of my rope here.
Yeah, but I think we can close it out. So this was our first Olympic rundown of the 2016-17 school year. Not everything is in full swing yet. I think some students are back on campus. I know classes will be starting within the next week or two. Then things will really start to pick up. For Matt Gritzmacher, gosh, I can't talk. I'm John McWhinney. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.